So last night, my wife and I went and saw A Quiet Place 2. And my thoughts are really freaking confused. And it's not because the movie's bad or anything. The movie's a good movie. It's a weak movie, but it is a good movie. And I'll explain more of what I mean, obviously, as I go into the review. But you should know going into this movie, it's good. It's a very good film, especially compared to a lot of other horror films. I wouldn't even call it a horror film, it's a thriller. But it's a really good movie. It's a good movie. It's just that it has sequel syndrome, and I'll explain a lot of what I mean in a minute. A Quiet Place 2 looks like it's going to be the very successful sequel to the original movie, the very successful Quiet Place Part 1. And it shows basically how it is that the apocalypse unfolds. It shows you a lot of the what and how of the aliens, how they came here. Yes, they are from outer space. And it gives you a lot of the backstory and history into that. And also kind of shows you who it was that they were and who it is that it looks like they're going to become in this next series. First, let's go over a little bit of what I liked about this film. I do have to admit, John Krasinski actually surprised me, because at the end of the first film, once again, spoilers for those of you who haven't seen the first one, he gets turned into a very sloppy rack of lamb. And that's what made A Quiet Place Part 2 a little bit weird when they announced it, was that you were like, well, how is it that they're going to continue the series when the main character just got turned into the main course meal? And John Krasinski's character is actually surprisingly strong, which is hilarious considering the fact that he's dead. The way that they're able to use the first 15-ish minutes of the movie where John Krasinski's actually in it and they're able to develop his character a little bit more is extremely impressive. And what's even more impressive is the fact that throughout the rest of the film, after the first 15 minutes, he's not even there and he's still developing a lot of the characters that are still alive, which is a much, much higher level of difficulty. So props to John Krasinski. That was a really, really, really compelling move on his part. The movie also does a really good job of showing some of the characters' progressions and introducing one of the new characters. It does butcher a lot of the old characters, two of them specifically that I'll reference later, but for its part, Emily Blunt does a really, really, really good job. She's a very, very good actress. She's very top tier. And she does a very good job of communicating to us someone who has lost everything. A mother who has just barely been left alone because her husband is now dead. She now needs to take care of this baby, and she also needs to make sure that her teenagers don't kill themselves, which they try really, 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 really hard in this film to get themselves killed. And she's doing everything she can to hold it together. And her acting is very, very good. It's very top tier. It's also very impressive that the parenthood mantle that she had shared with John Krasinski's character and her character in the first movie, now she has to take it all on herself because, like I said, he's dead. And she does a really good job of doing that, and it's very, very seamless. Also, the movie uses sound extremely well. It's a little bit more gimmicky this time around. For example, in this movie, they lean on jump scares a lot more than they did in the first movie. And it's actually very obvious when it is that they are about to use jump scares, which makes them not as scary. There are a lot of scenes of the movie where we would be watching it, and it's a very quiet movie because hence A Quiet Place. And once it goes dead silent, you know that there's a jump scare coming. And that's part of the problem, is some of the scares are extremely predictable because your ears become very accustomed and very attuned to the things that are going on. And so once that ambient background noise that's just very quiet, that is constantly throughout the film, all of a sudden goes to dead silence, you know that one of the creatures is right there. Also, the setup of the series in this second movie is extremely well done. In the first movie, it's basically all about getting to know the who. It's all about the characters, who they are, where they come from, what it is that their motivations are, how it is that they react, generally their personalities. And you also get to know the creatures that are hunting them. You get to know a little bit about them. In this movie, you don't find out too much more about the creatures except that you now know that they're aliens from outer space, which sets up the movie actually extremely well, and that you already know who they are and where they come from, which makes them that much more dangerous. And now a lot of the danger comes from other people around you. It's about being in contact with other people, and a lot of the problems that being human around something that's so much bigger and so much more dangerous than you, those things start to come into play. And that's actually really well done in this movie. And it sets up the third movie where we're probably going to find out why it is the aliens came to Earth and why it is that they're killing everybody, why it is that they are the way that they are. And that's probably going to go really, really well because of the way they've laid out this movie. It's really well segmented and it's really well paced. Now let's talk about some of the things I didn't like. The character motivation for Reagan is awful. Like, garbage awful. This is something that often happens with sequels, is that the movies often forget that there is such a thing as common sense, and they have a really hard time keeping that layer of believability on a movie, and so that's why a lot of sequels don't work. In this one, they take all of Reagan's bad antics and they ramp them up to an 11 for no reason at all. Or they do have a reason, but basically it's just to move the plot. It's not for anything that would really happen. At the end of the previous movie, Reagan had watched her dad die right in front of her, which was her fault because she, in the middle of an apocalypse for some reason, didn't remember that you can't make noise, otherwise the creatures come after you, which forced her dad to sacrifice himself for them, which was really stupid. And she was also responsible for her little brother's death at the very beginning of the movie because she gave him the toy, which then started making noise, and then she watched him get turned into the main course right in front of her. You start to wonder after a minute if Reagan has a little bit of a hit list because everybody around her seems to die really conveniently. Heck, maybe Reagan's more evil than any of the aliens are. And now, at the start of this new movie, Reagan has this weird out of nowhere God complex where she hears some people on the radio that may or may not be playing a song. Once again, we have no clue at the beginning of the movie, and neither does she. And because she discovers that they're playing the song on the radio, she's like, I'm gonna go help them and show them the cochlear implant thing that she figured out at the end of the last movie. She's gonna go help them fight off the monsters, which is really weird because it's like, you don't even know if they're there, and your dad just died. Your little brother died before that. Your brother just stuck his foot in a bear trap and his legs mutilated. Your mom is losing her freaking mind right in front of you, and there's also a baby. So your solution is run away. It's very teenager-esque, but it's so teenager-esque that it starts to become very cringy. And the reason given for all of this is basically teenage angst or something like that, I don't know. While we're in the habit of roasting teenagers, the brother, Marcus, who gets his foot stuck in the bear trap and mutilated, is also a major idiot in this movie. He literally gets one job throughout the movie, which I can understand you only give him one job because he put his foot in a bear trap. That doesn't sound very pleasant. And the one job is stay here with the baby and make sure the baby doesn't lose its crap or get killed. And you stay here. That's the whole movie. Emily Blunt leaves both Marcus and the baby to go and look for supplies so that she can go ahead and make sure that the monsters don't have a leg up on them. So Marcus has one job, and dude fails that job and decides for some reason he's going to take him and his mutilated leg up the ladder after putting the baby in a box downstairs in the basement, and he's going to go up with a pair of binoculars and no weapon and play hide and seek with all the corpses hiding upstairs. After making more noise than Patriots fans at a bar at midday, he decides to bring all the monsters directly into the basement where him and the baby are staying and tries to hide himself inside of a vault and accidentally locks himself in there, which creates a problem of oxygen, which he then starts to steal from the baby. He starts to steal the oxygen, and as an older sibling, I can't talk any more about it because I will lose my mind. And I understand that the story needs tension, the story needs something to get going in order to pay any attention to him. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with you treating him like he's an absolute idiot and then him bringing down everything on top of himself. Like, it's day 474 of the apocalypse. He's made it this far. He cannot possibly be this stupid. And in the end, Emily Blunt's character has to come in and fix everything because she's mom and she has to fix everything for her kids all the time. That seems to be the theme of both of these movies so far, is that as a parent, your duty and your responsibility is to protect your kids, not only from the outside world and the things that could hurt them, but also from themselves, from the mistakes that they make that put themselves and the people around them in danger, even as a parent at great personal sacrifice and personal risk to yourself. And I think that's something you could have done extremely well without giving both Marcus and Reagan the collective IQ of a kumquat. In real life, there are idiots, and there are people who are extremely dumb. And those people would die within 2 weeks to a month of the apocalypse starting. They wouldn't still be alive at day 474 of the apocalypse. Think about it this way. If aliens crashed here from outer space and started to attack everything with the decibel count, which one of you would live? Not very many dumb people would live. Dumb people make noise. There are people who are extremely intelligent that are mouth breathers that would die really quickly. So one of my questions is, how did these idiots even make it this far? And the even more important question is, how did these idiots make it this far and learn nothing from the previous movie and the current movie and the 400 days before that? And the other problem is the kids never even redeem themselves. The kids are idiots basically the entire movie, and then they use the same cochlear implant trick that they found out in the first movie, and then they use that to kill both the monsters that they're fighting at the very end of the movie. And there's no real progression. They're idiots, they get rescued by a gimmick, and then that's the movie. Now, this isn't a problem with the actors. The actors are actually pretty impressive, especially considering the fact that they are teenage actors, and usually they have a little bit of a shaky reputation among teenage actors when it comes to Hollywood, it's a pretty good movie, and they act really well. The problem is the writing. The problem is the motivation for the characters make literally zero sense. The motivation appears to be, I'm a teenager, therefore I'm angsty, and that's the whole bit. All in all, I like this movie. I thought it was a good movie. I'd give it a solid 7 or an 8. It wasn't groundbreaking, it wasn't revolutionary, but it was a really good sequel. It wasn't super bad. We just had problems where a lot of the times the things the characters were doing made no sense in conjunction with how a normal person would behave in that situation. I want to hear from you guys. Those of you who have also seen the movie, what did you guys think? Did you guys find that there were a lot of gimmicks like I did? Did you guys have a problem with a lot of the character motivations that they wrote, especially for the kids in general? Are you guys excited for number 3, and what do you think is going to happen in it? Please leave me a comment and let me know what it is that you guys think. I literally am throwing darts in the middle of the blackness, not understanding what it is they're going to do with the series from here. I know that they're probably going to explore a little bit more into the aliens in the future, but other than that, I have no idea what it is they're going to do with the series. Thank you guys for watching, and once again, I'd love to hear you guys' comments and let me know what it is that you thought about the movie, what it is that you liked, what it is that you didn't like, what it is you felt they could have done better, what it is that you think that they're going to do in the future. And I will see you guys later.